We have some fun topics to discuss today, so let's go ahead and get started. Rao, are you ready to give the technical update?
Sorry, yes, I am. Give me 1 second. I'm going to put the link here and then share my screen.
Okie dokie.
Okay, here's the link, and I'm going to increase the font size on it so everybody can see, and then get started with the presentation. I think that's good enough. All right, welcome to Community Update 174. Before I go into the content today, I just wanted to actually speak to the format changes to the report a little bit based on some community feedback. It's a little bit variable in terms of some people prefer the old format, some people wanted changes, some people wanted repetitious stuff to be removed. So for now, I've taken the view that we are going to remove the repetitious stuff and at least be very brief about things that did not change, so that when people look at the report, they can focus on what has changed since last. We do need to figure out how to give the references and anchor back to the people of the context, because if people are reading this report intermittently, I just want to make sure that they have the context for that, and we will figure that out as to how to do that.
It's sort of like a serial, a television serial. Like usually there's at the beginning of every serial, there's a previously on.
Yeah,
it's kind of what we need here, right? And then the ability to kind of skip the intro or skip the recap.
Yeah, so I mean that was kind of the view we were taking earlier, to leave some stuff like similar to how the previous scenes are played back. But anyways, I mean the TV format is a little bit hard to replicate in the written format, so we'll hopefully continue to improve this until people are happy. But for now, we're taking a lean and mean approach, and then we will see how to, maybe there is a couple of links we can add to the previous report or something, and maybe that will satisfy people's need to connect back to what happened in the week prior. The other thing we are considering is to move this report to the GitHub wiki, since most of the other content is on GitHub, and that's not immediate. It'll probably take a few weeks, because it's not just about the tool, but really you need to get the best practices of how to use the tool to really make it meaningful and useful. For example, Wikipedia has done an excellent job of how to use a wiki, but I have also seen many wikis where it's just a chaotic mess and you get lost. Though I guess a wiki is good in that you can search for stuff, but same is true about the Confluence software we have also. But in general, we're just going to move towards the GitHub wiki, and we just need to get some trials with that and best practices before we make the move complete. So that's about the format changes and what we're going to do. And now I'll get into the content of current week's work. And today we have also a presentation by Tomislav following the tech update. I'll briefly introduce that as I go along. So there has been no change on the mainnet or the testnet. But on testnet 2, and actually we're running at least one other testnet, we are doing a lot of performance testing and testing the latest version of the code base and the different feature branches. So I'll speak to that in a little bit more detail later on. And the mainnet has been migrated to the new Dazzle infrastructure. So that's where the nodes are living now. in terms of the development work, again, we're getting close to completing the block merge, especially the version that will go on the mainnet. And so there's a lot of activity going on in there. There are some pieces still being fixed, but most of the work there is around creating the tests, making sure we refactor and or create a complete set of tests for that block merge. So that's the activity that's going on in the block merge part. And then preparing for the hard fork 1. Basically, hard fork 1 is eliminating the slashed validator, but in particular, separating the reporting of balances work from the rest of the changes we will be doing in hard fork 2. So the reason for hard fork 1 is that, well, we need to get to hard fork 2 with changes, but we did not want to commingle the data format changes and the balances work in the same hard fork. We wanted to give sufficient time for the community to review just the balances part of it, and then cut it out as a first hard fork, and then go to the rest of the changes. So
no, don't say everything. Leave something for me.
Okay, so that's the context here for. Because it occurred to me this morning that people may have forgotten why we're doing 2 different hard forks as opposed to a single one. The first stream of work I want to talk to, and I kind of mentioned these streams of work a couple of weeks ago, I think. So the team is working really hard, keeping a lot of balls in the air and making progress. So you will notice that in this version, I have some 6 different streams of work. And I'm not even sure that that completely captures everything that's going on, but that's the scope of what the team is delivering. And so in the main stream here is the leaderful block merge changes that go on the mainnet. As well as the leaderless changes that will go on the mainnet because they're not dependent on the hard fork. So a lot of either writing new tests or refactoring existing tests is part of what is going on there. There was some changes to be done to safety oracle and fault tolerance, calculations and algorithms, fixing some bugs there, and then NotZipper has completed those, and I think he's doing the tests now on those. Here are a couple of PRs that are merged in those 2 areas into the code base. The mergeability tests PR from Will and fork choice tips from NotZipper. Those are merged. And then there are a few more that are being in review right now. The other thing is, because we have multiple branches, we're having to move changes or replicate or duplicate changes on one branch to make sure that all the branches catch that. So there is some of that work going on there, and then there's testing that's related to that. And then we're doing a lot of performance testing on this branch, and I'll speak to that in a little while. This last week, the hard fork 2 related block merge tasks, I think we have not done a whole lot new in there yet, but basically the changes are being ported over or need to be ported over to that branch. And then after that, we'll be doing some performance tests. The hard fork 1 for balances, I put a lot of detail in here, just so that somebody reading this report has sufficient information. But I'm going to skip over that, like Tomislav suggested, because he's going to cover much of that in his presentation, I believe. Then the planning for hard fork 2 is ongoing, and I think we have most of the issues identified now, but Actually, we will get to that level of completeness or confidence only after we're done with the block merge, and then we're able to take a deeper dive into hard fork 2 changes, everything that needs to be done. The approach there again is to minimize what has to go in a hard fork manner and try to push as much as possible into a soft fork approach. And all of that will be clear in a few weeks. Once we're done with the block merge and it's on the mainnet, we'll be focusing on completing that set. But there are already tasks in the hard fork 2 that we have started on, where we're able to identify, okay, this needs to be done and this is how. So one example of that is the work that Isaac has partially completed. He has done one PR, and that's going through reviews. There's more work to be done with the RevVault. And what this can be seen as a new feature. What it is that logging in RevVault is mandatory and read-only, and each RevVault transfer now has a unique ID. What that means is that all successful transfers or rev transfers are going to be recorded on the blockchain, which then allows for easy additional analysis, whether it's by exchanges or individuals, whatever. The unsuccessful transfer attempts, for a variety of reasons, maybe there's insufficient rev, maybe there was a program bug in the end user code or in the contract, whatever it might be. So the unsuccessful transfer attempts do not go on the blockchain, but they're all recorded in the block. So that's the feature that Isaac has partially completed, and now he's adding more methods and functions to be able to use this easily and nicely from anybody from a user standpoint. So that's what's going on there. That's one of the hard fork 2 changes, and then we'll have more to say about the POS changes and all that when we get to that in the future debriefs. There's a lot of there's a ton of work going on in the performance testing and performance improvement space. Gurinder is running one network with 5 nodes on a 32 CPU machine, and another with 10 nodes on a 128 CPU machine. And basically, we are trying to understand the performance because when block merge is in place, there will be a degree of concurrency. So we want to understand how that behaves both initially and as you accumulate a large number of blocks. So that is, there's a lot of work being done there. And then there's also, from a performance improvement standpoint, there are different configurations we're exploring. For example, if you take all 128 nodes and make them available to all the 10 nodes if they're running on the same machine, what does that do from either overhead or switching type of a standpoint versus constraining a certain number of nodes a certain number of CPUs per machine? So that's one kind of a thing that's going on. The other thing that we're doing is currently we're running with a RAM drive on this machine to understand what the performance would be. So in many ways, we're testing while eliminating either the disk I/O issues or the network-related issues. But in doing it that way, we're recognizing or we're realizing that there are actually still some NetE or network-related issues or timeout, because we have some timeouts for safety within the code. So those kinds of things are surfacing with some errors. So it's very useful in terms of understanding how the full code base is interacting with the hardware and the network configuration. And so we we will continue to do that. There's a lot of things that we're learning from there, from that testing. And then it's a matter of really prioritizing the areas that we need to work on and optimizing things from there. So that's part of the performance testing that's being done. And now, another thing that we gained from that exercise is to look at and identify that essentially sometime soon, we will have to get the expertise to look at just the network layer itself to say what will be the either performance degradation type of issues that we may have to handle, or potential network-based attacks type of stuff that we need to handle. So that's something that we'll have to plan for future. So the testing so far has been done with many nodes running on a single box, where we also still have to run that in a real network type of a scenario where you have a lot of different physical machines in different regions, and do and do the tests, because that will be how normally the nodes will run eventually. So there is that, but this right now, it's both useful to eliminate certain aspects of the infrastructure in the way we are testing, so that we can just focus on, okay, code base wise, where is time being spent? That's kind of what we're trying to understand right now. But then later on, we'll be doing that from the standpoint of, okay, well, in a real scenario where you have network delays and all that, what kind of issues are you going to run into? So that's a separate future activity that we'll be doing. The numbers we're still seeing about 4 to 5 seconds, but I don't want to go into that a whole lot more in detail at the moment, because these are just preliminary numbers. So I will leave that at that. I think mostly that's all I wanted to say, and I think everybody's aware that testnet 2, as we work through the hard fork 2 changes, there will not be any guarantees of data storage format compatibility, and only once we get close to the main testnet and the mainnet, you will see that reduce, meaning there should not be too many changes at that point in time. So that's all I wanted to say. Are there any questions, comments? Is this format working for folks? Any feedback?
I thought it was good. I thought it was good.
All right, let me then turn over to Tomislav. He is going to go over the hard fork 1 activity on behalf of Will, and do I don't know, Tomislav, you have a demo or a presentation, whatever you have?
No, I have only a few slides.
Okay, I'm going to stop sharing. You can start sharing.
Thanks. You gave like very big overview, so I will be more focused just on the hard forks. So why we are doing these hard forks, and why we are planning 2 hard forks, one after another. And so in first hard fork, so why we are doing this? First, this is because we want to fix some part of system contracts, but also maybe some changes on the storage level or format of the storage or the protocol. For example, in the RSpace hashing and this kind of stuff. So to make it more clear, we will do this in two steps with the 2 hard forks. So in the first one, it's basically very simple. We are not doing any code or contracts changes. So what we will change in the first hard fork is just to remove 2 slashed validators that we have in bonds map in POS, because they are preventing us for to work with the last finalized state in an easy way, how it's meant to be working. Because right now, because of this slash validator in the past, for last finalized state, we need to download all of these blocks until the point where this validator is slashed. So on the start of the mainnet, we created, we configured POS contract to be too conservative with respect to quarantine period. So this is the only thing that when we start the new Genesis, we want to lower this number of blocks that validator needs to be in quarantine. Maybe we will also increase a bonding limit, but we want to basically minimize any changes, even just the configuration. So what this means that we will get rid of all of the state on the mainnet, and we will transfer only the rev vault state. This means all the rev addresses with the balances. And of course, in this first hard fork, because we are not doing any other changes, we want to focus that community understand the whole process, and we will specify. If you want to check this for yourself, you'll be able to do this. Maybe this process will be time consuming, but it must be easy to check and easy to understand. So after we do the first hard fork, then we basically want to apply all of the changes that are really can give us more performance and much easier changes after that. So we basically have changes on each level. So I specify like something that is most valuable. So first we want to have a process that we can upgrade system contracts. So right now, because we don't have a way to change POS, we cannot, for example, change the quarantine period, and that's the problem. So we want to create some easier process that we have, like from technical perspective, we have a way to do it, but also we have some governance process. How we can, from the community and from the co-op, we can somehow go through this process. I mean, we don't have we didn't specify all the process yet, so I cannot say how it is going to work, but we need this capability. Rao already mentioned that we started the changes to the rev vault, and the main thing is that we will have all the transfers on chain. So this is something that it is interesting from the perspective of light clients or wallets that can much easier way to without looking at the history of blocks can get the history of transfers. So I wanted to also mention some other stuff that we want to change. For example, in the registry we have very difficult way to insert contracts that are updatable, so that we are calling this insert with a signature. And related to that, we will also fix some issues that we have when we are able to predict unforgeable names, which is now used exactly for this purpose. So we will simplify the whole process. Rao also mentioned some fixes that we want to do in the POS, and we have one issue here which now doesn't work, right? We have calculating rewards in POS which has the overflow, and we cannot basically calculate this automatically. So, for example, right now what we are doing to calculate this, we are doing this manually. We take all of the blocks, take the cost of deploys, and we basically calculate what this value should be. But this is not like, this is bug in POS, and we definitely want to fix it. So related to that, we want to have a special type so that we are safe from overflow, and we have some other security issues that we want to apply. In RSpace, there are also some fixes that we know that we will do, like unify hashing, which will improve the speed of block merge. But there is also some changes that are like more deeper, and I'm not sure if we will be able to test everything, but this will be very good to do right now, because we don't basically want to create any hard forks in the future. So and these type of changes in the storage or hashing or serialization requires like hard fork on the lower level. So yeah, and the first hard fork is basically dependent when we will publish the block merge. So we want to publish the block merge on existing state so that we can check that everything works without problems, and that we have even more confidence that when we go to the hard forks, that we don't have something behind our back as not related to hard forks. So how this first hard fork work, and what we will do is we will take the state of existing revolt contract. This is basically it. We will take all the list of accounts with balances, and we will transfer this to the new state. We have one difficulty, or this is how revolt works. We are not storing the rev addresses. This is like optimization, because we are using instead of just a fixed list, we are using a type of map which is more optimized for conflicts, when we have two blocks that are working with the same, for example, revolt contract. And the current implementation is written in a way that it's first take the hash of the rev address, and this becomes the key in the revolt. And this is completely enough, because when we do some transfers from one rev address to another, we can very easily get to the vault by hashing the address and accessing this revolt. So, but now when we want to extract the state, we have a problem that we really don't know what this what ref address is that is storing this balance. So for that purpose, Will, as part of these changes, and Will is like mostly working on that, and because transaction server and data that is using is used by RevDefine. So somehow Will was main person to cover all of this. And what we did, we replayed all of the blocks from the beginning. So with reporting service, we were running in parallel all of the blocks from the beginning. So this is also something that this process of running blocks in parallel means that in the future we will be able to do this for any new blocks, not just for replay or reporting. So we are using this list of addresses. This is what we need. We need for transaction server to give us the list of addresses, and then we can hash these addresses and basically complete our revolt that we need. Together with this, because we have transactions, we want to validate the balances or have double check of the balances that we have in vault. I want to be clear. We are using transaction server only for this mapping. The source of truth is really on-chain revolt. This is the only thing that we are using. All of the other stuff with transaction server, we just want to have a double check because we have this additional information. So this is the result that we are getting from the current state is this one file that we are calling wallets txt. And this file was in the same way used when we were starting the mainnet. So we had this wallets file on the specific block height that was on Ethereum. So we will do basically the same process. We will only change the extension so that it can be recognized, but everything stays the same. We will specify the block number on which we will stop the current network and take all of the rebalances and do the whole process of starting the network again. So this is what we will have to start the new network. And this is basically the genesis ceremony that we had when we were starting the mainnet. And because we are not changing anything on the system contracts, we will have the same situation with the hashes. So when we will go to the second hard fork, we will basically do the same process. And this is why this is like a rehearsal because we are also testing that this whole process works without any issues. And this is basically it. This is the end of the first hard fork. We will take the genesis ceremony, and this will be after we create a new network. This is another place where anyone can check their balances directly in a wallets that we have today. And I forgot to mention that in this file will be in the same place where is the first wallets txt, and this will be the place where you can easily check your addresses, your address and the balance. This will be the only place, the one place there that is like official information for your balance. I think that's it.
So are there any questions or comments for Tomislav?
Well, I just want to say it was an exceptionally clear presentation, and I'm delighted to see that we're getting to a point where a lot of this process is more formalized. We're not making it up as we go along, so that it means the work can be more distributed. It also means that people starting their own shards have some processes to follow. So this is really great. I'm really happy to see this this presentation, and hopefully we can cut this out of the overall debrief and just put it up as a video that has, because it's got good information content.
Yeah, that's a great idea. I think we should do that. I do want to say one other thing about the tech update. There has also work that has started on the Captain Proto replacement for protobufs. I will speak more to that in the next debrief, but there has been some progress on that, and certainly a lot of the analysis is complete, and a little bit of the implementation is complete on that. So I'll speak to that more in the next debrief.
Yeah, this is actually, yeah. Go ahead, Tomislav. You say.
Yeah, I'm saying that we definitely want to push these kind of changes in the second hard fork, because we have lots of stuff that are preventing us to easily work on new features. And with this hard fork, this is finally we can be free of something that is following us from the past. So from developer's perspective, I'm very happy for that.
Yeah. All right, we have a lot of good stuff to get through. Thanks for that. So we've only got about 22 minutes left. Daryl, if you want to give a quick community update, and then also if you and Shitsi want to talk a little bit about what happened with the IFF presentation. The story is really quite enjoyable. Are you ready to go?
Yes, I am. Okay, so here's the week in review for May 27th to June 2nd. On Thursday at the governance committee call, there was discussion around multi-stakeholder voting. Jim brought up a proposed starting point in categories of voting groups and weight percentages. We then discussed the process of how to bring this to the membership and how it works with the existing bylaws. Also on Thursday in the DApp Developer Working Group, organized Community Wallet Development Fund for an offline cold storage wallet, a MetaMask replacement, and Rev support in the Trust wallet. On Friday in the Climate Coordination RCast, we discussed Steve Keen, author of the book Debunking Economics, on how climate studies from the 1970s on were largely ignored by economists. Also, we discussed the new Earth System Observatory project at NASA and how it was a tough week for big oil. On Saturday in the RGov Smart Contract call, merged the new Python regression testing framework into RGov. On Monday, on the Casper stand-up call, I'm not exactly sure, but I believe that there was discussion around the use of the name Casper and whether
it wasn't the use of the name. I'll fill in very quickly.
Okay, thanks.
It's essentially, I'm beginning to raise questions like, the pros and cons of CBC Casper. And one of the things that is most, I'm eyeing vigorously is, in 2017, there was a vibrant open source community gathered around Casper. With the fragmentation of the blockchain space and with the actions of, certain projects, that seems to have really taken the oxygen out of any sort of vibrant collaborative community for CBC Casper. And what that means for us is that it puts all of the support burden for a very complex protocol squarely in our camp, which makes me question whether that's the right long-term decision. So that was essentially the topic of conversation for the Casper stand-up.
Okay. So does that mean there's new technology developed? Is it a different proof of stake protocol that outside of CBC Casper that you're describing, or? Yeah,
so for the last 2 years, I've given talks about an approach to consent. So Casper has 3 things going for it, or had 3 things going for it. Number one is it's parametrically polymorphic in the value that's being stored. In other words, you get different instances of the protocol depending on what it is you're doing consensus about. You could do consensus about a coin flip or an integer or a ledger or the state of a virtual machine or any other kind of data, right? So that's goodness. 2, it uses justifications as the means for detecting safety. That's also very, very good. And then 3 was this vibrant open source community. since then, around 2019, summer of 2019, I gave an equational presentation of what I called radical fault tolerance. So using the notion of a square root, you can extend the notion of a square root to the row calculus. And once you have that, you get the beginnings of a fault tolerant protocol that you can prove correct. Like you can prove it with a machine because it's so simple. But of course that variation didn't have a lot of the sort of key assumptions, right? So it was not working with loss of messages, and it wasn't working with potentially malicious or otherwise errant validators. However, in the last couple of months, I have been able to demonstrate a variation of the same ideas which addresses those two concerns. So the value of this protocol is manifold. One, it's not just that that it's provably correct. Like there's an equational spec that is simple and something that we could automate in one of the existing theorem provers, but also that it would not require us to do a replay, or it would dramatically cut down the amount of replay that our network has to go through, that the validators have to go through, which would dramatically increase the speed of the network, like by a lot. So you get this kind of balance. If there's no open source community that's supporting this really complex protocol, but instead we can replace that open source community with just Isabel or Hall or Koch, any one of the sort of well-known theorem provers, then that's kind of a good trade-off. And if we trade off the parametric polymorphism for something that is simpler to understand, easier to maintain, and a lot faster, that's a decent balance. So those are the things that we're kind of muddling through. Does that make sense?
At some level, yeah, it's interesting.
So this would be like a part of Venus or some future.
Yeah, it would be. I mean, it's not like it's not a part of Mercury. It would definitely be a part of Venus, right?
We were talking about this on the Argov meeting right before this, and the question I asked is there any consensus algorithm that is formally proven?
Not with the rigor that we're hoping for.
So it sounds to me like we'd be reinventing things, moving things forward, and it's a selling point. No,
it can be. I mean, the one thing is I don't want the network to appear, to be, 2 steps forward, 1 step back. So, I'd want to be super careful and make sure we had all of the I's dotted and T's crossed before we committed to the resources to that path. But I mean, it's certainly interesting as a research direction. I'd want a lot more behind it before we kind of went down that path. But I am looking very seriously at what kind of community there is around Casper, and I'm not seeing any meetups. I'm not seeing any repos that are being updated. I'm not, basically, it seems to be dead. And that's very concerning to me.
yeah, I don't like death either.
It's already dead. It has no Wikipedia page.
So, just as a personal preference, just so that everybody knows where I'm at in these kinds of discussions. I think if you have something better than what everybody else has, you do it. That's always kind of been my attitude. And if if the big boys get scared, that's even better.
Yeah, fair enough. Thank you for the feedback. Oh, we can talk about this more in the closed door session on Friday. But thank you. This is good feedback. Daryl, were you finished?
No, I still have a few more things to mention.
Go for it.
Okay, so on Tuesday at the Communications Working Group, we discussed our Wikipedia presence. We also discussed updating the CoinMarketCap info. We also talked about Greg's IFF presentation and Shusi's follow-up article that made it into a lot of press. We also discussed creating a marketing materials depository, what to do with the original Casper calls from early 2016, where Greg schools Vitalik and Vlad, and progress on the new explainer video of Greg's 3 questions. At the DApp Developer Working Group, on board of team to develop the RChain offline cold storage wallet and review many RGov rewards, And this morning in the active member hangout, Raphael's brother Paul gave an update on his front end work on the voting DApp, and we did some discussion around this whole Casper thing, and Jim gave an update on my RChain wallet, and that brings us to now.
Well, I was hoping you would also, you and Shutzi together would give a discussion of the IFF.
Yeah, sure. So yeah, I'd love to do that. Shusi, I hope I do a good enough job at explaining it. So a few days ago, there was a conference in Beijing called the International Finance Forum. Established in 2003, the IFF is a nonprofit and non-governmental unofficial international forum organization headquartered in Beijing. It is a high-level dialogue and academic exchange mechanism co-sponsored by business leaders and scholars in the global financial community and academic circles. Entitled Global Governance and Development in the Post-Pandemic Era, the 2-day meeting aimed to provide a platform for in-depth discussions on international cooperation and global governance while promoting development and collaborations in low-carbon initiatives, sustainable finance, climate change, public health issues, as well as Belt and Road initiatives. So it was live streamed, and it was in the wee hours for me, but I found myself awake. So I witnessed the whole thing, and I also did some live chatting with Shusi while it was happening, and it was quite exciting. Greg's presentation was supposed to be the second last one of the night, and all the previous entries were either live Zoom or actual live people at the conference. Ours was the only one that was a pre-recorded video. So when the host didn't see a live Zoom setup happening, she thought that Greg wasn't there and bypassed us to the next guest. Fortunately, Eric was there, and he managed to get himself into the control room and made sure that they had the video queued up for after that following guest, which would have put us in the final closing presentation, and it worked out. So it was quite dramatic, but it all worked out in the end. And Greg's presentation was aired at the final closing piece for the conference, and it went great. It was really exciting to kind of witness it, because this is a big deal in Beijing. Apparently last year, 11 million people viewed it. We were the only blockchain project invited to this conference. And it's already kind of made some big waves in China. So I have a blog entry of it. If anyone wants to kind of get more details and actually watch Greg's presentation or read the transcript, just go to blog.rchain.coop and you can check it out.
Thank you, Daryl. I also want to extend a heartfelt thank you to the China marketing team, Shutzi and Eric and Attic B and Juju worked very, very hard to make this happen. And obviously, as you can see, they worked all the way to the completion, right? They didn't sort of phone it in at the end, which is really, really important. So heartfelt gratitude to them. Daryl, I know that you mentioned it got some press, but actually it got picked up by the financial press all over the world. So we had a bunch of Western-based folks running a story about RChain.
Yeah, Shusi did a great job doing a follow-up article, and that article was picked up, yeah, by a lot of the press. So
yeah,
yeah,
absolutely. So if you're on Twitter and you see the tweets of that article from the co-op or from me, please like and retweet that article. It's making some waves. So this is the kind of presence that we need to have, and you know it is very important at this point to begin to speak the truth about what's happening with climate change. I was recently watching a presentation from 2 years ago to the Royal Institute from a leading climate scientist who he discussed the whole picture, but with a specializing on just sea level rise, and just sea level rise alone is extremely alarming. And then if you include the temperature rise and what that will do to habitable zones in the planet and arable zones in the planet, it's really astonishing. The idea that we should be prepared that it might be the case that human culture doesn't actually make it through the next 50 years. And it's only going to happen if we all work together, and we work together in a way that humanity has never worked together before. So that's what RChain is here to support, is the coordination to make that happen. All right. Did we have any other things that we wanted to cover here? Oh, there is the board voted on a framework for member offerings. I will give more detail about that in the Friday session, but just know that that was passed, and so we can talk about that in the Friday session. Apart from that, do we have anything else we needed to cover? Any questions, comments from the community?
I just want to say just one more shout out to the China team and Shusi and Eric and everybody. Attic B, it was just a great effort by all. It was also an example of people working across borders and around the world, coordinating this and making it happen. And it was exciting.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. We saw the same kind of intensity, focus, and drive that we have seen from the dev team. We saw with the China team, and it was humbling and very heartwarming.
And there was a tremendous engagement between the China team and our team in dealing with some issues that the co-op is having. So we're working internationally very well.
Yes. Good. All right. Well, if there's nothing else, I appreciate everyone's attention and engagement, and please stay safe, and see you on the other side.